pioneer in this region with coordination, Rockefeller, and many other, IDRC, among others. I was the regional director in Singapore until they closed the office there, and I was the one entrusted with closing. But besides this...
Which is why you had to come all the way to Bangkok.
Yes, indeed. I need to find a refuge. But my passion for Southeast Asia has brought me to start this place. And basically it's a venue, it's a reading room. Normally people can come and read about Southeast Asia, and then we have all kinds of events related to Southeast Asia. Today is about violence against women in the context of ASEAN, and tomorrow will be about protection of informal workers also in Southeast Asia, and we always change, so there are many different topics. These two events, today and tomorrow, were supposed to be done in combination with the people, the ASEAN People Forum, which hotel is quite nearby. But unfortunately, I think as you are aware, the venue was changed at the last moment because of some tensions with the Thai government, and so was moved to Ransit, which is quite far away. So some of the participants, unfortunately, that were expected to be here cannot be here because distance makes it very difficult to come all the way from Ransit to here. But still, I am very happy that we have a very qualified group of speakers from various countries, and we have the honor to have Her Excellency Didra that will open and give some welcoming remarks, and then I will briefly introduce the speaker. Please, Her Excellency.
Is it a small enough room if I talk without a microphone? Are we okay?
We are online.
Oh, we're online. Am I better use it?
It's live.
Oh, it's live. Live from Bangkok. Here we are. Okay, so everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. I know a 6:30 event. Sometimes you want to just go home and see your families and put your feet up and read a book. So thank you for coming here and joining us this evening. I would also like to extend my appreciation to Junction for hosting us. This is my first time in this building, and it's quite funky, I have to say. There's a lot of really great collaborative spaces, and it's wonderful to see that artists and intellectuals and people of all ages have the opportunity to come here and share ideas and put their talents on display. So very interesting to be able to come and have a conversation in this great building. And then, of course, I would like to thank our partners from CSIS, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, for hosting, organizing this second panel discussion on the theme of women, peace, and security. For those of you who don't know, this is a small grant project that Canada is supporting through our Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. So what we do, it's a demand-driven grant where NGO, civil society, can put forward ideas and seek funding. So this is one of the initiatives that we're funding. It's workshops, a series on women, peace, and security. The first was in Jakarta, and about a month ago, and there we were looking at primarily at the national action plans and the infrastructure and legislation and governance that exists within ASEAN, and having a bit of a comparison on how women, peace, and security is being tackled in different countries in ASEAN. And it was quite an enlightening conversation, and what we found there was that, it's a global problem. It's not only in Southeast Asia, it's also in Canada, and we were in many other countries, like all other countries, it's safe to say, and that you don't have to be in a conflict situation, or you don't have to be in a transition from a conflict to face the struggles and the challenges that exist in the women and peace and security agenda. For example, violence against women, sexual violence, discrimination against women, and other marginalized communities. So that was a big takeaway from all of us. So that was the first session. So tonight we're here, and the second theme is Are Women and ASEAN Safe? And it's a pretty catchy title, and I'm sure when people saw it, they had very different reactions. You know, what exactly does that mean? What are they getting at? And for Canada, what we're interested in knowing about, and what's a particular concern, we think that, you know, in case you don't know, we have a feminist international foreign policy, and we have a feminist international development assistance policy. And at the core of that is trying to create equality, particularly for women and girls, but also for other marginalized communities. So trying to identify the barriers that exist from having a completely accessible and equal opportunities for all, basically making people have the circumstances to fill their potential. And one of the challenges that we have discovered is that as long as women continue to be subject to domestic violence and other violence against women, including sexual violence, they are never going to be able to reach their full potential. And there is still violence against women in Canada, in Southeast Asia, and many parts of the world. In Canada, we're also particularly concerned because we've seen that Aboriginal women in Canada are more likely to be the victims of domestic violence and sexual violence. And some of you may be aware of a mission and an inquiry that is taking place in Canada looking at missing and murdered Aboriginal women. And what that has discovered is that, in fact, there's quite a higher likelihood that Aboriginal women are the victims of these crimes. So we're trying to look at our own past and the effects of colonialism and modern day challenges, as well as look at around the world to learn from other people's experiences and how we can tackle those problems. Also, we realize that marginalized groups are more likely to face violence, whether it is migrant workers or women, children, communities that are victimized or that are minorities. If you look at conflict situations that are taking place in the region, women are having specific sets of issues that are facing them, particularly in the Rakhine. I think we can all use that as a clear example of where women or girls are facing a particular set of challenges. So again, in trying to address some of these issues, we're trying to compare the experiences of others and to try to come up with best practices so that moving forward we can apply those best practices in Canada and that we can help to raise awareness about the issues that exist. And I think for the victims of these crimes, it's important to recognize and to make them know that they're never responsible. A victim of a domestic crime or sexual violence, they are never at fault. And sometimes they just need to hear that, you're not to blame, and we support you, and it's okay to come forward, and you have people that can protect you. And so that's part of this as well, is showing support for victims and letting them know that there are a number of parties, whether it be government organizations, the international community, or other groups that are looking to help out. So that's all I'm going to say, because we have a lot of much better informed women that are here today that are going to share their perspectives. And then we'll have some questions, and if anybody has questions for me at the end, I would be happy to answer them as well. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, and I think exactly what Ambassador said. The issue is from the household to the community, to the national, and to the regional level. So this is why the title, the catchy title, ASEAN start from that wide level and then kind of move down to the country level. So we will start first from Raquel. I think everyone already knows Raquel. She's the star of the ASEAN People Forum for years already. But she will be talking today about this particular issue. Please.
So now you can see all my message.
It's already down.
That's mine.
Okay, in the meantime, let me also thank you, our partner, and particularly with Fitri, Fitriani, Fitri, who has had the idea actually of organizing this event, and actually his friends we met. And actually there was also somebody else who I should recognize, right? Yeah, from CSI, because he was the one who first connected with the Junction, and then we start to talk, and then we shape the event and start to think about who could be possible speakers. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to collaborate with one of the leading think tanks. Actually, what people do with the program. I mean, actually it is. It's one of the leading think tanks on strategic issues in the region. Okay, please.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel. I work with Asian Forum for Human Rights and Development. And when Ibulia contacted me and requested me to speak about how safe is ASEAN for women, I think the answer is quite easy. Maybe I can ask you, do you think that ASEAN is a safe place for women to be in? Yes. And also like and also, I'm not really sure. So I think all of us will have different views of it, but I would like to focus my presentation on how the ASEAN human rights mechanism responds to women's rights in the region. So a glimpse about Forum Asia, we add human rights organizations based on memberships, and currently we work with 83 members organizations across 21 countries in Asia. And since 2005, we've worked with civil society organizations to lobby for the creation of ASEAN human rights mechanisms. And since then, every year, we issued an annual performance evaluation report of ASEAN human rights mechanism. This year is the 10 years anniversary of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. Therefore, I would like to share with you some of the findings of our report on this that utilize the informations and data points from ASEAN Secretariat, the AICHA representatives themselves, the interviews, and also surveys to the civil society organizations, etc. So this is the landscape of ASEAN, and currently we are actually facing and also affected by the very huge human rights crisis in the regions, namely the Rohingya crisis. And recently, the fact-finding missions on Myanmar just issued a report on how sexual violence and sexual harassments are being used as a weapon to control women, especially Rohingya women in Myanmar, and also how it being connected with the Bangladesh Rohingya refugees. And also we talk about the rights of minorities as one of the key issues that being raised by the respondents of the survey, such as the religious minorities and persecution of LGBTIQ in ASEAN regions, and the restriction of freedom of expression and the associations, such as the recursive laws against journalist freedoms and political dissent, and human trafficking, and of course the rights of migrant workers are there, and the rights to liberty and fair trial. But the emerging issues that also coming up in the past 10 years is the protections of human rights defenders and the need to also address environmental justice and ecology. So when we talk about women, hello. When we talk about women, we will automatically think about women human rights defenders. So women human rights defenders are women that are working to promote and protect human rights. And Forum Asia is the only regional human rights organization that have a protections mechanism for human rights defenders. In 2017 to 2018, we documented 126 women human rights defenders crisis. But this number is actually only at the top of iceberg phenomenon, because these are the numbers of cases that we are working with directly. And maybe I have this shout. Sorry. Yeah. And these 126 cases are very interesting because 92 of these cases were perpetrated by state actors. Some of the form of the harassment are judicial harassment, 58 cases, arbitrary arrest and detention, 40 cases, intimidation and threats, 35 cases, and also violence, which is physical and psychological violence. And the pattern of harassment to women human rights defenders are really unique because mostly these attacks are targeting their gender and sexuality. And not only happening in physical space, but more and more cases are happening in the online platform. And we see one of the new phenomenon which called revenge porn that attacking women human rights defenders. So with this context, I would like to bring you on the legal entities and the objective of ASEAN. So the ASEAN Charter came into force on 15 December 2018, and these documents give legal personality of ASEAN. And we need to be reminded that actually, according to the Charter, the objective of ASEAN is very positive: to enhance peace, security, stability, and peace with world, harmonies, environment, strengthen democracy, protect and promote human rights. Nevertheless, this document is having very limited mention on women's rights, and to some extent it's also gender blind because it doesn't specify gender equality and how promotion of women's rights need to be addressed. So when we talk about the ASEAN human rights mechanism, actually the ASEAN structure this is the picture of the ASEAN structure, and there are 3 community councils within the ASEAN structure: the Political Security Community Council, the Economic Community Council, and ASEAN Social Cultural Community Council. Each of these councils come up with a blueprint on what the ASEAN member states need to be achieved until 2025. And most of the women's rights issues are embedded within the ASEAN Social Cultural Community Council. But then, actually, we need to mainstream the women's rights issues to all of this council. And you also will see that 2 human rights mechanisms that are available in ASEAN are actually located in different community council. IJAC, the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, are located within the Political Security Council, and then the ASEAN Commission on the Protection and Promotion of Women's Rights are under the Social Cultural Community Council. So actually there are 3 ASEAN human rights mechanisms that are available in ASEAN. First is ACMW, which is working on the protection and promotion of the rights of migrant workers, which established in 2007. But I will not focus on that because it's very difficult to obtain information from the mechanism, and therefore I will focus my presentation on ICHR and ACWC. So ICHR is actually created in 2009 as part of the ASEAN Charter follow-ups. But then after that, civil society and also ASEAN member states feel strongly that we need to have a specific ASEAN commissions on the promotion and protection of the rights of women and children. Therefore, ACWC was established in 2010. Hence, next year is going to be the 10 years anniversary of this mechanism. So the differences between ICHR and ACWC are listed below. So ICHR is the overarching body on human rights, which means they are also still accountable for the promotion and protections of women's rights. And they are having 14 mandates, which includes standard setting and for the creation of declaration and conventions. So ICHR created the ASEAN Human Rights Declarations. Good thing about ASEAN Human Rights Declarations, although CSO have very polarized stance on it, given the absence of freedom of assembly associations and also emphasize on sovereignty and national interest, but it includes reproductive health. So, and it also includes principle of gender responsive. Nevertheless, ICHR do not have mandates to receive complaint individually or group, but they have mandates to provide advices to the ASEAN government. And they also have annual report. Differently, ACWC, they are reporting to the AMMSWD or the Ministry of Women in the countries of ASEAN. And it's actually a specialized body on the rights of women and children. They have 20 representatives, one women's rights and one children's rights representative, and they have 13 mandates. Comparing to the ICHR, ACWC mandates are actually more robust because it includes the mandates to advocate on behalf of women and children and encourage ASEAN member states to improve their situations. So these advocacy mandates is actually really key in order to boost the status of women in ASEAN. Nevertheless, they don't have individual complaint, and they're also creating the RPAs on EVAL and EVAC, the Regional Plan of Actions on Elimination of Violence Against Women and Children. There's a lot of acronyms here, and if you can pass the test, you are like excellent student because I cannot do this. In order to evaluate these human rights mechanism, the assessment that we are are using three benchmarks. First is their terms of reference, Paris Principle, and also the OHCHR Regional Human Rights Principles. I will go through the result of the ICHR 10 years anniversary evaluations from us. So from 2010 to 2018, ICHR spent $6 million USD and implement 121 activities. Nevertheless, the result of these activities have not been evaluated externally, and there is no evidence that this has impact on the betterment of human rights protections in the regions. And then these are the thematic areas of activities that ICHR do. So I've included the engagement with category of groups such as women and also a response on trafficking in persons. So I cannot do details, but yeah. But basically, the most implemented mandates of ICHR are 4.1 and 4.3, which talking about creation of strategy. But the least implemented mandates are actually 4.7 and 4.10, which are the to obtain informations from countries and also to provide protections. And for violence against women, protection is very important because if the human rights mechanism do not implement their protection mandates, then we have a huge problem. And for ACWC, their task is actually very specific to uphold CEDAW and CRC, and then also to lead and implement the Regional Plan of actions to eliminate violence against women and children. Last year, they do a review of the 5 years work plan, but yet we need to know the result of that because next year going to be the 10 years anniversary of ACWC. I don't want to be skeptical because 10 years, I mean like arguably the African and Latin American human rights mechanism need 50 years to be able to fully function. But then we cannot afford to lose another 10 years before they can fully function to provide us with protection. So some of the key insights from the ACWC work that Forum Asia obtained from the 2010 until now is one about accountability and transparency. There's no annual report of ACWC that are available to the public. Hence, we don't know what are the progress. And then also the selection mechanism. Indonesia is the only country that have open selection mechanism. Other countries' selection mechanism is through direct appointment, and hence it is directly affecting the independence of representatives. How we can have an impartial and independent representatives when the government are selecting the representatives? Second is the response to human rights violations. Well, I think the audience know more about this, so I will not go beyond that. And the coordination and public trust. So, according to our interviews with the representative of ACWC, there is a lack of intra-governmental coordinations and support within member states. IJER have dedicated secretariat staff from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but ACWC do not have support staff from the Ministry of Women's or Social Welfare, and this really take a toll on their, effectiveness. And one minute, please. Okay, and then the most important thing is political ownership. Often the issues of women's rights are sidelined, and therefore, of course, ACWC also don't have the political leverage to go beyond what they actually can do to protect women's rights. So I will stop there, and then we can continue in question and answer. Thank you.
Sorry to have to be a tough moderator. Actually, I was quite generous at that, but we have 5 speakers, and I want to do justice also to the public later on. So please, for the next speaker, keep to about the time. Now, we have again another presentation, which is more at the regional level, although we touch also on the country level, from Deepa Bharati, who is now with ILO, but she has also been with UN Women, and she has contributed to many regional programs. Now she's working on Safe and Fair ASEAN, very similar title, and actually it's also fair, which is a very important component, and not only be safe, needs also to be fair to women. And before she has worked on migrant women with UN Women, a very large program, Middle East as well as Southeast Asia and South Asia. Okay, please, Deepa.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Oh, I should take a mic, otherwise I also have a very loud voice. First of all, congratulations, Leah. I've attended a few of the Southeast Asia Junction events. It's always fascinating, and the room is always full with people standing. Hello to the people who are connecting online, and we hope we'll have you also in the dialogue.
Now it's good. I was afraid.
Yeah, but I'm seeing people standing as well, so hopefully we'll also get there. Thank you. I was told very strictly by Leah not to speak a lot and stick to time, which I'm trying to do because I do want to hear all others. So this is the topic, and I'm not just speaking on behalf of ILO. I speak from my experience and from the work which I've been following of various people. I wanted to start with this question. When this topic was suggested, what do I speak on? Who are the women of ASEAN? This is okay. So who are these women? We're looking at when we talk about women, it's not a heterogeneous group, right? And this is also not representative of this whole region. We are looking at people with different identities stemming from their race, religion, nationality, ethnicity, class, sector, occupation, their role in society, their sexual orientation, gender identity. So even when we are talking women, we are talking in binaries, but we really have to look at the continuum of gender identities. We're talking about elderly women, we're looking at young women, we are looking at women who are scientists or who are police women or people who are transgender. We're looking at sex workers, we're talking about young girls. I'm not going to speak about children because that's not my area of expertise, but really one could have a whole session on violence and the risks of violence which young girls and children face. So I will be speaking within the scope of talking about adult women, and again I'll keep it broader and I'll go a little bit even global beyond ASEAN in terms of normatives. So I was trying to define what safety means, and this is not my definition. It comes from this document which was done under the United Nations Trust Fund by a civil society organization called Jagori, which works on safe spaces. And this is, and one of the things again I wanted was that we speak in simpler terms, so we really do have this dialogue. And I really like this definition which they had about if women's safety involves strategies, practices and policies which aim to reduce gender-based violence, the violence against women or violence which is based on their gender identities, including women's fear of crime. So it's not just that the crime happens and the violence happens, but even the risk of that, the looming fear of violence. And this includes public and private spaces, and I will speak a little bit about the continuum of violence which Leah alluded to. But let's look at the concept of safety and prevention of violence, not just from physical, but larger. So freedom from poverty, looking at financial security and autonomy, putting in place strategies which can reduce risk of violence or being at risk or victimization. It involves women being able to exercise their agency. Women have agency, but do they have the enabling environment to exercise this agency, make their choices, make their decisions without the fear of harm in any sphere of their life, whether their work or their personal life or in a public space. And this, in addition, I wanted to come in from the ILO angle. Women's safety includes decent work, freedom from all forms of violence and harassment, also in the world of work. Very often I find when we talk violence, we conflate it probably with domestic violence, intimate partner violence, which is one of the largest forms of violence which women face, and it results in more deaths than many other forms of violence. However, we should not forget the world of work or public spaces where women face harassment and violence, and I'm sure many of us have experiences or have worked with people with such experiences. In the project which I work on, and I will speak right towards the end about it, just for people who don't know, we work on women migrant workers, and as Leah said, it's called Safe and Fair. So we have defined safety for migrant workers, but for women, to include protection from physical, sexual, psychological, economic forms of violence, protection from trafficking, forced labor, exploitation, labor exploitative conditions. Why do I label these out? Because they all have very different definitions and scope in international legal and national legal frameworks. But we also define safety as access to quality, coordinated, survivor-centered services and responses. The other thing was, when I started making this presentation, I thought I would put out some data. Let's look at data on violence. And one of the things was data is not only very, very fickle to find, but it's also not consistent. There is work on costing of violence, there's work on prevalence data, but it was practically impossible to find at ASEAN level. But then, one case of violence is one too many. So let's not put numbers and say, oh, is that a lot? No, maybe this is an okay problem. No, it's never okay. Violence against women, violence against any person is never okay. So I'm not going to speak about data of how many women face violence, etc. I have notes because otherwise I tend to speak a lot. What influences safety? And I want to go back to this because when we are looking at response law, when we speak about responses to policymakers, to legislators, to trade unions, to employers, to civil society, and among ourselves, it's important. And I want to start with something which work says and work talks about, and I strongly believe is one of the big, or these are few of the big things. Of course, there are a lot of other factors as well which influence safety, but one of the big things for me is harmful versions of masculinity. And here I want to share with you this report which you can find online, which was done a few years ago in this region. It's called Why Do Some Men Use Violence Against Women and How Can We Prevent It? It's a UN multi-agency report, but this was done with a sample of 10,000 men in a few countries in the region, beyond ASEAN as well. And that study shows that 70 to 80% of men who raped, which is the most common motivation for them was sense of sexual entitlement. It was that belief that they have the right to have sex irrespective of consent. And the second most common motivation, and this was even more horrifying, and it remains horrifying every time I read it, was fun, entertainment seeking, and boredom. And this is men responding on their own motivations and perceptions. If you're interested, then you can find it online. I just have one copy, but you can find this online. It's got a lot of findings, and I have even a page which is succinct on that. So let's not say we have problems with masculinity. The issue is the way it manifests the harmful sides of versions of masculinity which are perpetrated by media, which are perpetrated in conversations, in the language in which we study and we continue to work and live in. The other big thing, and I have dedicated one slide, is gender inequality. When we look at violence or any of these issues not having economic empowerment, it goes back to gender inequality. It goes back to a space where women are not equal in marriages. So we have in this region, despite ratification to the Convention on CEDAW, there are reservations. So within marriage and inheritance, women, educated women, women who have all the agency may not have equal rights. There are countries where women cannot pass their names to their children, especially if they've married a person of another nationality. Women in many countries, and particularly from particular groups, cannot own land, assets, which further exasperates their vulnerability. Gender and other stereotypes. I can speak for an hour about this based on some of the work. People have said laws are same, everybody has rights, but then how these laws, how the rights get actually experienced, or whether people benefit from the laws or from having those rights, are they able to exercise? There's stereotypes on the basis of gender identities, primarily as women, but other class and other identities. Patriarchy, I think we all know about it and the way it manifests. It influences how we go from women need protection, so a very protectionist form of taking care of women to protect them from violence, rather than ensuring that the factors which influence violence, the factors which cause violence are removed. And where there is violence, there is lack of the rule of law is followed, there's access to justice, there's access to all forms of services, etc. Class and other identities, and here I pulled out three because I know there are people who are going to speak about specifically about migrant workers, and Raquel spoke about refugees, and one of the examples around it, women in detention centers. All of these various identities, the intersecting identities, influence the safety of an individual. So if somebody asks a question, are women safe? Which women? Because some women are more safe than the others, and I think when we look at these conversations and policies and responses, it's to reach out to the most marginalized, or those who are rendered vulnerable or are highest at risk. And in fact, when I talk about women's ability and space to exercise agency or lack thereof, which also influences safety and being able to make these choices. And if we are looking at safety again from the broadest sense of women having economic opportunities, being able to exercise their agency fully. Lack of legal protection. If we take, for example, migrant workers, domestic workers are excluded from legal protection in many countries. The same study which I talked about talks about that it found that 72 to 97% of perpetrators did not face any legal consequence for the violence they had perpetrated. Now that's what we are talking about. Women, please go and report. You have all these services, but if you go and report, nothing is done. In fact, there can be, if it's in a place of workplace, we saw with the Me Too movement, there was, where women spoke about the consequences of reporting sexual harassment because the person who perpetrated was in a place of power, etc. So, laws need to be strengthened, they need to be implemented, there need to be policies, and this influences safety. Okay, so I'm sure many of you know about CEDAW, but again, when I talk about equality, many people in the conversations I have, and many of you may have said, but men and women are equal. There are equal opportunities. The law considers all of them. And again, a form of equality, people misinterpret equity and equality as well. But we have to talk about what CEDAW, every ASEAN country has ratified CEDAW. And in fact, a lot of what we are talking here does not just apply to CEDAW. It applies to ASEAN. It applies to many, many countries in the region, globally as well. CEDAW is, after CRC, the Convention on the Rights of Children, is one of the most widely ratified conventions. It stands for the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and which talks about equality not just in formal and legalistic terms, but in actually the impact and effect, so that it's really about ensuring that women have equality in their lives, the experience. So the results of the actions lead women to have equal opportunities and equal experiences. And this is in a very simplistic term explaining CEDAW. I think this is quite important in all our conversations to bring back when we are talking about violence against women. Now I speak a little bit about the international, about the normative, going a bit further from ASEAN. The last part about the ASEAN Declaration and the Regional Plan of Action, I also went with acronyms because I knew you were going to do justice to it, have been spoken about, but I wanted to speak again in the world of work. Primarily, ILO stands for the International Labour Standards. And we have a series of conventions. There are 4 conventions that are dedicated to women. I will not go through the details. The 2 of them are core conventions, which every ASEAN member state, every member state of ILO and the constituents have an obligation to enforce. C189 is the Convention for Domestic Workers, and C119, which I will speak a little bit, is the latest convention which was adopted in June 2019 on violence and harassment in the world of work, not just in the workplace but in the world of work. And why does that come? It comes with the recommendation 206. So very, very quickly on the core principles. I'll not read, but I want to say primarily we talk about everybody has a right. So this is not just for women, it talks about men, it talks about people with different identities. Have a right to work in an environment which is free from violence and harassment. It calls on employers and states to work for an inclusive, integrated, gender-responsive approach. It talks about different roles and responsibilities and reinforces fundamental principles and rights at work. And again, we talk about the words equality, non-discrimination, and keeping a particular focus on those who need protection the most. I will just gloss over this. You can see it primarily talks about what an integrated and gender-responsive approach will be. Because I do want to speak a little bit about the continuum. What is important when we say world of work is not just saying the workplace, my office, my factory, my school, my institution where I am the teacher, I work in the administrator, or any of these places, or my government, my ministry, wherever it might be. The convention talks about and refers to continuum of violence, linking. So it talks about violence which arises out of work, including commuting to and from work, in accommodation, and these are just to name a few. Cyber, I'm very glad you spoke about that, and it was referred to. Work-related communications, cyber violence. It takes cyber pornography, the revenge pornography. The ACWC had quite a bit of work and focus around that as well. Looking at all ranges across this world of work. Yes, absolutely. And the other critical thing which I wanted to highlight about this convention is it recognizes domestic violence as an impact in the world of work, and violence which takes place in the world of work has vice versa. There is evidence to show that one form of violence or certain identities make women more at risk for other forms of violence. And this is a handbook which is a joint venture of UN Women and ILO, two organizations I've had the privilege to be part of, which has compiled information from around the world. It talks about, it's evidence-based, and it talks about promising practices. It's written by experts, and you're welcome. You'll have this presentation so you can scan to download the publication. I think for us it's key, and please Leah, I do need a minute because I pulled out these quotes which I thought, which are extremely, absolutely last minute. And these are actual quotes from people we have been working with. A woman's most important role is to take care and cook. And this is a belief men and women have had, that there are times when a woman deserves to be beaten, for example, when she burns the rice. This is from an ASEAN region. It's a woman's responsibility to avoid getting pregnant. So, it does not matter what the man does, the woman. And so, if that does not happen, marital rape, other forms of violence, I don't need to elaborate. A woman should tolerate violence in order to keep her family together. And this actually is from this research which I was talking about and from our work. So it's not just one source. If you want, I can tell you the percentage of the people in a couple of ASEAN countries who believe in this. When a woman is raped, she's actually herself to be. We have heard this so many times. And especially young girls, the way you dressed, sex workers, of course they deserve to be raped because of, look at the rape. Migrant women, there are derogatory terms, so many. And for example, I have servants, how many laws talk about and how many people in the discourse talk about migrant domestic workers as servants. This is something in the course of work, and again I have another study from UN Women called Trial of Rape, where a female justice official said rape is something that only happens to, quote, low-class people, the uneducated and migrants. These are all quotes of others, huh? Please don't attribute, these are not my quotes. And a male police officer who said raping a virgin is worse than raping a non-virgin. So, look at the qualification of that. And unfortunately, we have a role of media, movies, pop culture, etc., which kind of does not challenge the mindset, which reinforces a lot of this. So these are from the two reports which I talked about. This is my last slide, just because this is truly my last slide, because I did want to leave people, I don't know how many people have heard, the European Union and EU have put together a huge portfolio called the Spotlight Initiative, which has a funding portfolio of 500 million euros for 5 years globally. For Asia, the focus is on trafficking. I will leave a few copies. This is a project which again I'm very, very privileged to be part of. I manage it. I work with a team of 33 fantastic people within my team and across all 10 countries. And we work, it's a partnership of ILO and UN Women. We work with UNODC. And these are the links. So I will leave a few copies if you're interested in what we do. You can always reach me. That also has my and my colleagues' contact details. You can write to any of us if you want to know more. But thank you very much. I do think we need to look at a world where women and girls and people with different identities. Today,
thank you very much. And indeed, there's so much to say, but we really need to give space. What is the speaker running away? Our speaker is running. Okay, then we change. We are going to Aurora. Yes, Aurora de Diaz. Oh, sorry.
We're playing musical chairs.
We will finish, I know. Aurora, please. Only 10 minutes. Yeah.
Sorry, you can get angry with me.
commissioner with the Asian Commission for Women and Children for the Philippines more recently. So and CEDO, so she has been in many different roles at the international, local, and ASEAN level. And she's still active at Miriam College.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon. I think I have to skip breathing in order to be fast on this. I think the theme itself is quite challenging. We never really think about safety as such. We think of violence against women, but we never really connect it with safety because it's as a matter of course. We take it for granted that on an everyday basis you have to be warned about certain things, and that is psychological. Immediately, even before talking about safety, you have this psychological fear at the back of your mind. And this is, of course, safety is a core issue. It's a constant issue for everyone, most especially for women. It is a gender concept. And therefore we need to understand the nuances of how women are specifically affected in every sphere and space of her life. That goes as well to migrant women. So the specificity of safety for the categories that have already been mentioned should really be examined. The other thing why we should really pay attention to it, because it impacts on the extent to which women can fully exercise and realize their political, economic, and social rights and freedoms. And of course, we are all agreed here that not enough is being done to respond to the gender-specific safety needs of women in ASEAN. So the answer to that is, of course, we have a level of safety, but a lot to worry about. And as has already been pointed out, safety concerns for women is directly related to the issue of pervasive violence against women and girls. It is a violation of human rights, as we know, and of course, all the data shows us, and this is just from one agency, WHO, 35% of women have experienced either physical and or sexual violence in their lives. This is a preliminary figure that I saw in the recent publication of ACWC on regional guidelines on data gathering on violence against women, which I had the privilege to also participate in the first few months before I left ACWC. 6% in Singapore. That can't be totally true. 34% in Vietnam and 44% in Thailand. The Philippines probably is much, much worse. And therefore, we need to look at VOW as well as safety as firmly rooted in gender equality and discrimination, and harmful cultural, social norms, attitudes, and practices. I don't want to really delve on this because I think this is something that we all know. Violence is physical, sexual, and psychological. Maybe condoned or perpetrated by individuals as well as the state itself. This was very interesting to me because this is a peace index in 14 countries in Asia Pacific, and it shows us that there's a correlation between violence against women and the peace situation in each country. And I have to point out to you that the Philippines is right at the rock bottom. And that is so strange because if you notice in the Global Economic Forum, the Philippines is one of the top 10 countries as far as education, political participation, health, and work employment is concerned. So that means that some indices which give you some idea of where women are not totally accurate because it does not correlate with other factors such as safety, violence, health, and all that. So it's indicative that you have here this, some of the ASEAN countries are the topmost, which is Singapore, and Thailand. Of course, India is better than the Philippines. Oh, should I be glad? Okay, and that is to say that all these indices, all these studies questioned as well. No? And because there is no holistic analysis of women, because they give you a bit of this or that, but they don't correlate at all. This is by Value Champion. I really don't know what they are. They're a corporation but according to them, the safest countries for women in Asia Pacific is, again, Singapore figures very well. Then you have Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. Okay, we're very glad we have company. It's Indonesia. Okay. Now, for women, I think violence is an everyday experience. It does not happen in a year or several months. When walking in the street, you see that there's always somebody stalking you, somebody who might kill you, might rape you, while waiting for the train. Anywhere in the world is always a problem. I've had experience of, just walking in the train and then they got my bag and he was so fast, but surprisingly, I didn't know that I could run just as fast. So I chased him right there and I began screaming so hard that the men noticed and they got they got my bag back to me. And that was my first experience of violence in the train station. In the public transport system, the sexual harassment is every day. Imagine yourself, I was in South Korea, in Seoul, as well as in Japan. They have a term for it. The Japanese call it sekuhara. And then, of course, in Korea, because work is done 24 hours, it's always, very, very full, no? And I was with my colleagues doing the proper study issue, and my colleague, Thailand, was so bold, and she said, stop your sexual harassment. And everybody, just were shocked. And as soon as the next stop came, the guy ran away, and the Korean man said, I am so sorry for what the man did to you. Korean men are not like that. So how will you ask him do such a bold, resistance and shout at the time that you are being harassed? I don't think, 95% of women will be so shocked they will be paralyzed to even talk about it. This is something that I found that small girls, young girls, high school girls in a mixed setting like a bus school, experience rape, experience harassment, either by the drivers or the fellow students. Navigating urban cities and the cyber world are risky areas for women. Just as much as they are positive and useful for women, they're also very risky. Urban areas are planned so differently from a woman's perspective. They never really consider the safety aspect of urban planning. And of course, we know that women are never truly safe in the cyber world. There's a lot of studies this way. Now, I have to call attention to something that we take for granted, because language, okay, it's not locational, it's not situational, it is the way people talk. In any language, cursing is always focused on women. Okay, any language at all in the world. Now, I have to tell you our special case here. When a president uses coarse, sexist, and misogynistic language to attack his enemies and downgrade women, political leaders, this is something that the public who adore him do not even question. For example, he said, I wish I was given priority in raping these beautiful Australian women who was gang raped by prisoners who escaped from prison. When, there was an encounter between the NPA and the military, he ordered the girls, go ahead and shoot these women in their vaginas. Another, I could count, 50 rape jokes that he has said. He told military at the height of the Marawi siege against the terrorists that he is permitting the troops to rape 3 women and he will be responsible for it. And of course, the most famous case is a woman who dared question his credibility as mayor and expose his EJK policy in Davao City before he became president. He has a very cruel treatment of this wonderful senator. And he not only shames her every day, slut shames her by discourse, misogyny, but he even, his followers made a fake sex video to show that she is an immoral woman, to be shown in the parliament. So what the women did was, we started an online campaign. I was the one in that sex video, and I'm coming to testify in Parliament. So all of us, one by one, we didn't know each other. In 2-3 days, we had 5 million women saying the same. We are going to Parliament, and we are testifying that I was the one. So the Parliament's backed out. And that campaign became a movement, which is now called Every Woman. He, even on many occasions, he kisses overseas Filipino women on the lips during public gatherings and inappropriately touch women in full view of the public. So we were asking who are the women who are targets of violence. And as has been mentioned, you're quite right, any women who are human rights defenders, individually and as a group. And in all of these rallies about democracy, the Arab Spring, the Hong Kong rallies, all of them were marked with sexual harassment of women activists. Journalists, especially, are targeted. Maria Ressa threatened with death and rape threats, misogynistic language, sexualized comments about women's appearance, because the Rappler is an online news agency, exposed all the extrajudicial killings and his misogyny, and so she was she has 13 legal cases, and she received thousands of rape and death threats. I tell you what, the first rape joke that he said, we had a press conference again. The next day, I got my own share of rape and death threats. But the nun, Sister Mary Jamana, got about 6,000 rape and all kinds of derogatory remarks. Women political leaders and parliamentarians harassed by their male colleagues as well as the public. And of course, let's not forget women in traditionally male career domains, military, Navy, Air Force, mining, engineering. So what is the impact of all of this? First, violence negatively impacts women's health, education, incomes, and their opportunities. It limits their mobility, social interaction, and capacity to work effectively and advance in their professional careers. Because if you cannot go to a place, like if women were going to have a career, promotion, but your assignment is in the Middle East, you can't even go there because you will be harassed as a woman CEO. It restricts the public spaces that they can move about for work, leisure, and social interaction. It silences, this is more. We're talking about gender equality, but in effect, the environment silences women and controls any political initiative that they might have. And lastly, of course, it instills fear and passivity on some women. Feminist analysis of safety distinguishes from the word associated with safety for women is always accompanied by fear. But fear from what? Fear from routine harassment on an everyday basis, retaliation from male aggressors. And the other one is fear too. Fear to assert oneself and complain. In a crowd like this, and especially in a male-dominated, conversation, women can hardly raise their hand. And if they're raising their hand, they're totally ignored. And if they speak at all, then they speak tentatively with fear and timidity. Fear to speak out one's political ideas can move about confidently any time of the day or night. So this is another study that you already quoted, but it involves strategies, practices, and policies which aim to reduce gender-based violence. Okay, what can be done? And I would refer to Canada as a fantastic program for safety for women and girls. as well as some European countries. So there are, of course, campaigns like this one, where I think it was India. And then you have manuals that have been developed, crisis safety manual for Muslim women. We've talked about minority women. The intersection of violence is particularly very important for minority women, migrant women. Okay. I think this must have been from Canada. There are holistic approaches to safety that includes awareness, advocacy, safety in public places, in schools, workplace, and the community. Women nowadays are confident to travel alone, but they probably underestimate the danger of traveling alone. Japan might be, safe for men, families, etc. But for single young women, my niece just went to Japan because she said, "Oh, no problem." And she found herself being harassed constantly by Japanese men. So safety measures for women and the public must be integrated in infrastructure projects, in train stations, waiting sheds, public transport system. Some have already resorted in their programs for empowering women and girls to self-defense. This is the list of my presentation. ASEAN Commission on Women is not a great record, but there are initiatives because I was there. And of course, one is the best Declaration of Violence Against Women, Regional Action Plan on Violence, and the recent one is the Regional Guidelines on Violence Against, which I just mentioned. I think really what ASEAN's effectiveness depends at the national level. The region is just a reflection of, the strength and the competence of the national level. So I think we need to, and this is the last one, feminist analysis of safety for women cautions us in essentializing women's fear and victimization. To the extent that the only measure that governments and instruments will approach safety from a very protectionist point of view, not really considering that women can themselves have the agency and the choice to defend themselves or to make themselves safe, and never consults them on strategic planning, say for urban planning. And I think it's very important that whilst we're talking of women and children, safety issues are not only women's concern, it's everybody's concern. So it's a public health issue, it's a public safety issue, and I think this must be taken holistically. Now, since safety has become an issue, especially in developed countries, there has been a rush of commoditization of safety measures. For instance, gadgets, use this app, etc. And it's even made a factor in the consideration of real estate prices. Okay, and of course, real estate agents are saying, "Oh, go to this place. It's very safe for women because there are no black people." So you see, the kind of strategizing is also very racist, is also very, very sexist. So, commoditizing safety, I've never thought of that until I read this book. And lastly, caution about securitization of safety issues into anti-terrorism measures. It might be presented as a safety measure, but it can also result in control and suppression of activism of women. Thank you.
Now let's go to Thailand finally. Usa, please tell us. And then Indonesia. We still manage to keep up, but it's interesting, so I am sure. So USA is with the Foundation of Women, again a very long time women rights defender and gender activist in many different reincarnations. Okay, so this.
Okay, thank you, Leah, and good evening, everyone. Just to see who are here. And because of the question, the topic is about how safe is ASEAN. So I try to present on the linkage to the ASEAN. Because ASEAN is free flow of goods, free flow of labor, and free flow of money. Yeah. So through this, it's like giving the growth to the economics, and it's supposed to be good. Yeah. But actually, when we come back to at the national level, we will see that the situation of the economic growth, or what we call ASEAN economic communities, are actually really putting someone behind, or in the SDG terms, like many people are left behind, and there's like many of you talking about marginalization. So from here we see that more of the ASEAN, we see that women are more marginalized, and especially we found that the economics regression has pushed more and more women to migrate. And like in ASEAN, we see actually that the Foundation for Women has been working on the issue on trafficking in women for a long time. But through our work, we think that now not many women come out or seek protection as a trafficked person. Because actually now people are more migrating, and then to identify that which women are trafficked is very very it's not clear cut black and white. So it's many are like more gray area. Yeah. Many times when the authority interview the woman, they will see that you are consent to go to other countries, to go to Malaysia, to go to Singapore. You know you are going to be in sex work. But actually when we found out from the woman, they know that they will engage in the sex work, but they don't know the real situation that they have to be in there, and what is the real situation that they have to face. And many people, when the agency persuade them, or you want to go to be like a massage, working as in the massage, like foot massage, body massage, traditional massage. But when they end up in the Singapore or Malaysia, it's not the massage work, it's the sex work. And many of the women has no negotiation power. So at the end, the woman has to engage in the sex work. So the Thailand situation that we have is under the armed force, the prime minister is the general Prayut now, and even after election, he is still in the power. Yeah, okay. And
some video, yeah.
okay, national, and we have the National Council for Peace and Order. Yeah, and there is the drafting committee of the new constitution, and then under the previous period, yeah, we have many laws passed, yeah, and including many laws. Yeah, I coming to the law that important, that's on the gender equality law. Because of in this previous parliament, there are 80% are military and or retired government officers. So this gender equality law, that's supposed to help end discrimination against women, including at work or in other spheres. But actually this law, because of the two exceptions on the ground of religious principle and also national security, so it's like the laws now, not many women coming to get to request for protection from this law, and because of power relation. Like actually there are many announcements of the job that said that only wanting the new staff, new workers, male. So there are still many of the job discrimination in the society, but women are not there to come out and use this mechanism. So through this, we will see that the ABC that's supposed to bring the close to the society, but actually you will see that in reality that many of the people are left out. Like we have on the street, we have the government ban the selling thing foods on the street. And actually, this is the life of many women that are selling small things, small food. Yeah. But then this left many of the women are like marginalized from this economic growth. Yeah. And many of the people that have to now have less opportunity to earn a living. Yeah. And this is also linked to the migration. And we have also heard of many of the women in the factory got laid off, or there are many of the factory that moved their factory into other ASEAN countries. So they end up in like working as in the massage or spa. Yeah. And in this, there are also many of the like levels. Yeah. And through this, there are also many of them are first aid to go abroad. Yeah. There are some of them that they get the real job as in the masseuse, as a masseuse, but they end up working without work permit. Yeah. Like one case that we got the woman, the husband of the woman called from Ukraine, that she was first aid and worked in the masseuse. And then she got the job, but at the end she couldn't, she has the health problem and she wants to go to hospital. So the employer refused to send her to the hospital. So at the end she got the phone of the foundation. So we have to insist that if she dies, you will be the shop will be in more trouble. So in this, that you see that not the traffic women that came out for assistance, but we have many of the women migrating into the exploitative situation. And also some of the women, maybe they are trafficked, but they don't dare to come in the front because of the fearing of the in the danger from the traffickers. And we just have also some of the cases that the report to the police. It took 12 years until the trafficker got arrested. Yeah. So this is the situation. That's why many women don't want to risk their life, so they want to migrate again. Yeah. So this is, we want to say that actually for the AEC, we still have like separate of the sectoral body of AEC and ASEAN political and security communities. But actually, we have already new form of the threat for the national security, but still the government still pay a lot of budget for the armed force, yeah, for the military. Actually, we need a way to deal with on the national security. So I talk about this because of the even we have a good mechanism in order to protect women from the gender-based violence, domestic violence, or sexual violence in public and private sector. We have now shelter at the 77 provinces in Thailand, and but we have very limited social workers, and still like because of the lacking of resources and also personal resources and also resources that can help women. So still many women keep the problem as their personal. And because of the coming to the law that just passed on the domestic violence law. Actually, the law that is existing is the law to protect person who face with domestic violence, and the previous government just passed a law on the protection and promoting the family institution, and to replace the former one. So this you see that instead of protect the women who face domestic violence, they protect the family institution. So you see that in Thai it's like you put the family institution as above the rights of the woman, and so in the society it's already existing that it's okay, then you give the man to change, and then it's better that we keep the family, and then children will get the best interest of the child. So we have to question what is the best interest of the child, that the family are together, or maybe it's better that the women are safely in the home with the children, and maybe the father just maybe take responsibility to the children, but maybe the father and the mother can divorce. We have four cases that we follow up that the woman prosecuted as killing the husband with intention, but actually she's the one who facing this violence for many years, and then one day she fights back, and then it's accidentally that the husband died, and there's one case that the woman just have to kill because of she cannot stand anymore. So through this case, 3 of them have to be put in jail. And even we hired lawyers in order to help her in the court, but at the end she has we cannot help her. So, and because of the society, when the woman come up, it's always that the man the belief that the man can be rehabilitated. So for us, I think that if the law seriously take him into report and then prosecute him, then this is the way to rehabilitate the abusive husband. So I talk more about the poverty, because this has pushed women into the migration, and at the same time we also have many of the women from our neighboring countries migrate into Thailand. And this is about even in Thailand we have the poor card from the government, but the poor card also doesn't help much, because actually people want a way to living. And the way of living of many people are already destroyed. Like on the rural women also have to migrate because of the environmental and because of the droughts that are happening, like no rain, and they cannot earn enough from growing rice, or maybe also many of the indigenous women has been migrate to Korea, and we have many of the story that the Korea authority have to reject many women who want to enter the Korea. So we want to highlight that the safety of the women also connect to economic situation. So 30,000 Thai people are rejected to enter Korea. So we don't know how many of the women now are staying there, because many people are entering Korea as a tourist and then run away without having visa. And many of the women that also contact the foundation also were forced into prostitution or engaged in the sex work. So through this, I think that ASEAN is going to already now drafting the ASEAN Plus 6. So we see that how the rights of the women, especially the migrant women, are the core, because always the protection to the women, the rights of the women are put at the ACSC, the social and cultural communities. But actually how we can talking about the protection or the right of the migrant women who are vulnerable and marginalized in the ASEAN society practice into the consideration of the AEC at the same time. So in the ASEAN Vision 2025 actually mentioned about the cross-sectoral implementation of the ASEAN. So it means that the AEC should not talking about the economic growth, but they also have to consider about the effect, what happened in the real life of the ASEAN people, especially to the women. And at the same time, we found that sexual violence also connect to the power relation, like one case of the Korean girls in Chiang Mai in the north that was raped by the owner of the land, that her parents growing plans. Yeah. So you see that the perpetrator of bullying, doing sexual violence, separate from the what we call the myth that people who are raped is like people who have mental illness. Yeah. But actually, it's not. It's about the power, and you see that this link to that many of the people who are marginalized group, like Karen, who are indigenous group community in Thailand, that they have many of the cases that don't yet come out to report to the police. So we have the report from the police bureau every year about 4,000 women and children together report to the police. But we think that is much more than that, maybe from 4,000 to 8,000, because according to our network in the communities, they stress very that they try to encourage the people to report, provide information, but they at the end they think that these people decision is not to report because they are afraid. Even one of our friends from the Hmong leader said that they cannot do anything. They just tell the woman to leave the village because of she herself also threatened to be killed by the perpetrator who have power in the communities. Okay, yeah, so and this is one of the case of the Muslim girls, 14 years old, that in her house that she got raped by the man. Again, this is relative of the owner of the land. This is happened in Phang Nga and it's in the Muslim communities. And showing this case because of at the end the mother recognized after the girls got raped by 30 men that involved in this case, that the mother decided to report to the police. And this is so that actually in the Muslim communities, many of the women who come out and talk to the police will ask the parents of the girl children to return back and agree, and using religious practice. It means that if especially when the girl get pregnant, because of according to the religion, if the children born from the woman who has no husband, the children will have a sin. So they normally will ask the perpetrator to marry to the girl who got raped. Yeah. So the foundation are part of the Giving Women's Voices in ASEAN, and we are doing now the sexual violence and access to justice and focus on marginalized girl children. And we hope that we will launch a report maybe at the end of this year to show more about the situation of that the woman, especially the marginalized girl children, have no access to justice. Even we have the good law already at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This gives a very concrete picture of what we are dealing with. Okay, please, Fitri. Last but not least, it's interesting to note that in Indonesia there is a debate about changing the Ministry of Women Affairs into Ministry of Family Resilience. So that is interesting, the similarity with the conservative movement in Thailand as well as in Indonesia.
I think by now people are already tired, especially for those that attending Asian People's Forum that is ongoing since yesterday, and there's so many ups and downs. And also we always try to make a difference, and I donate too many sad stories, and I hope our effort can make a difference. And today I will share to you about what happened, all the situation in Indonesia, because we already have a lot of experts on ASEAN. And I want to share with you about my country. It's not always happy, but we try. So how safe is ASEAN for women, and I will raise the issue of Indonesia. It will be threefold: background, progress, and challenge. And although the report of number I get from the report gathered by the Commission of Violence Against Women, and I've already asked permission. The Ibu Commissioner is here with us, and it's actually their time that the violence against women in Indonesia is improving in terms of number. But this is number. It's not reflect the severity, the traumatic experience, and the effort that it will not be repeated, or that the perpetrator receive justice, and the victim receive support. And there is nothing new with the statistic. We saw how the personal dimension is still dominant, especially in Indonesia. The total is conducted between people, and then within this community there's increasing. It's lower, but it's still high. And also the violence against women also conducted by the state, but the number done is very few. Wives and domestic violence is still the number one cases. If I am married, it means that I have a higher chance to somebody will conduct violence to me because they feel that I am their right. They have the right on me. And then after that, there will be girlfriend, and there will be daughter. It's, again, relationship. I know Budi Bang is saying that one is too many, but this is thousands. And then there are specific issues as well that you can see that violence against women that is experienced by women from minority group, different sexual orientation, women with disabilities because they cannot report, women with HIV/AIDS, and women human rights defender, as Rachel has shared with us. And this is the number that were reported to the Commission on Violence Against Women, and there are many other violence against women that's not reported. And although since 2004 the Indonesia government and the parliament issued the law of eradicating violence and domestic violence, which actually oblige the police forces to have one woman in each police forces. So women and children has the comfort to report to other women, but to have one female police in each police station across Indonesia, that is around 6,000 islands, it's very difficult. How many women that want to be police forces where all the colleagues are male and the job is sexist? Another point is that their promotion system is not as good because to be promoted, women need to be able to patrol, and women are not allowed. This is the saying of the police head of station. Women are not allowed to do patrolling at night because if there's a criminal trying to break down the house, if the police that stop him would actually say stop, you cannot enter that house, that the criminal female, the criminal saw that the police is female, then the criminal have other thoughts than just stealing. That's what the head of police office was saying. So because of that concern, women are allowed to do patrolling and therefore in limiting their career. This is Holabak, Indonesia, conducted research that is quite a high scale. There is 62,000 respondents on this research are being conducted. This is the young feminists of Indonesia that perhaps that arguably have a wider reach to people because they use technology to get the result. And it was said that out of it, almost 25,000 responded. They receive majority of the highest cases is catcalling, and it was done through the remarks of the body for 12%. And in public places, the most dangerous place to be a woman in Indonesia is public roads, and then secondly by public transport. So in order to be safe in Indonesia, you have to be rich because you have to have your own car, that you have to have your own driver that drives you around, or you are able to drive yourself. But there are also, well, how many of women are rich? It's just unfair. And in the house or domestic is 12%. That is obtained by this research. The number explained the urgency, how we should actually do something in terms of public safety that ILO perhaps are doing and UN Women are doing, and also to in public spaces, and also through public education to people that it's not good to do violence against other people, that's for sure. And this is just a background on how good Indonesia is in terms of chart, and it was said that the Philippines and Indonesia is in the same place. And after that, the progress of Indonesia is legislatively, we're good in terms of we have all the legislation that almost all the legislation that you perhaps asked. Indonesia ratified CEDAW. Indonesia have the law that ensure and guarantee human rights. We already have the law that eradicate domestic violence in 2004, and we have the law of citizenship that allow women to have greater vote and have ability not to lose their citizenship if they married or they move around to other countries. There is a law in 2007 that tries to eliminate human trafficking, and also the presidential instruction in mainstreaming gender in all government institutions. However, that's the law. The implementation is other things. And I will share with you 5 issues that I think I can raise today with you. The first is there is a systemic weakening of the women movement in Indonesia. Even the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection herself probing that perhaps it's good to actually change the name to Minister of Family Resilience. Why? Because there is a pressure, just like in Thailand, Musa was sharing, that how about the family? Like, you empowering the women to do what? To like speak against their husband isn't family, and then even the minister is actually toying with the idea. Isn't that so dangerous? It just stripped off the empowerment that Indonesian women has. This is all the concern that we have. The national budget allocation is very few. It's only I don't know in terms of US dollar, but it's 800 million now. It's very few. The highest a ministry that got the allocated budget, state budget, is the defense. Why? Because they say we need to actually revamp our obsolete armaments, of course. Maybe there's a true enough. But the second issue is there's women representative in the government. Is it safer to speak up? And this is in the current president. Perhaps will end this year and next year. There's 8 ministerial positions that is head by women. Whether there has been changes, it is very difficult because it was perceived that when these women get the position because Indonesian President Jokowi has a political depth because he's not coming from a political party, and therefore he has some debt that he needs to pay to support the political party to appease. And one of the head of that political party said, why don't you appoint women? Of course, the women that reach this position, they have their own merit. But because of that perceived gossiping, which is not true, that's just an issue. But people believe because there is an attempt of putting more women, it was said that women that lead this ministry is unable, especially. So they have this fighting within their ministry, and they don't have, very few that have public support, although maybe increasingly they know better and they're really perceived as the agent of change. Also, we have an increasing number of women in parliament, but there is a concerning trend. So whether women are actually selected because they are capable, or what kind of women that actually are being selected? Are they furthering the cause of women, human rights even. They were actually just selected because they're somebody's family. That's one. Secondly, we have an increased pressure from the conservatives within Indonesia that actually push women that speak up. But the women that speak up actually campaigning for women to actually return to their kodrat, to their biological nature. And what is that? And those kind of women, because they are having endorsed by the conservatives, they getting votes as well. So let's see the interesting 5 years of Indonesian politics. This will go with the national legislation on eliminating violence against women. There are pressures that actually say that Indonesia don't need feminism, this legislation is too feminist, and this therefore feminist is against Islam, is against Muslim. It is a hoax that is created that this bill draft is containing material opposite to Islamic values, and nobody would actually want to oppose the religion. It is very difficult when you put a draft bill with a religion. Second, there is a hope that this draft will promote abortion, and there's that the draft is opposed to marriage. This is because that this is actually Indonesia don't have any basic law that would actually allow women to report to the police, and the person can be trialed except for the rape. Rape meaning defined by the criminal law as the inclusion of inception of genitals to penis to the vagina. I should be apologizing for saying that. That's biology, and this is an issue. And with the increase in conservatism, and then sometimes they twist the word of feminists and women activists as a way that they hate marriage. They don't approve families staying together, and it's really really sad. Another issue is the indigenous and minorities' right. I need to raise this issue before other people in the room ask me what about Papua. And this is a direct quote from the press release that already issued by the Commission of against Violence Against Women. And there is still a violence and discrimination against indigenous and minorities people. And it is the effect is especially felt by women. For example, in Papua, there's unfulfilled social and cultural economic rights of the indigenous Papuans, especially in the course of development process. Papuan women that are victims of conflict where they have to move to other places, they suffer double. They also are targets of sexual and gender-based violence in their place when they have to seek refuge. Another last issues, if I still have 1 minute, is I see that there's this connection between the whole wide broad subject agenda of women, peace and security narrative to the women empowerment as a whole in Indonesia. Yes, we have the Women, Peace and Security National Action Plan. It actually engaged women in peace building in the area of communal conflict in Indonesia. And this will come to an end this year. And the government needs to actually discuss with the civil society. Hopefully it will be discussed with us as well as the perhaps the Komnas Perempuan National Commission, also the Ministry of Women Empowerment that hopefully will not change name, to actually create the second National Action Plan. And what do we want to be in it? Can we actually make a connection between the unsafeness feeling that women are feeling in comparison to the jargon of a nice woman, peace and security? Can we do something to connect these two? How can we actually guarantee women's safety? How to mainstream the agenda? For example, how do we push women to enter the military and the police force if there is still a virginity test, for example, to get into the police and the military? I don't know whether the Philippines also have. So this is something that we need to speak about. And sometimes in ASEAN countries, as a close, we know that there are some institutions so they can do what what they want. So it's something that we together need to change. Thank you.
Well, I could not stop her because she's the youngest and I would be accused of discrimination. But I am glad to see that we have all the generation here and all very committed to still fighting for women. Unfortunately, we have no time for questions. I may give just 2 minutes, just if there is very, very urgent comment that you want to make. Anyone? It's any very, very pressing? Okay, one. The commissioner from Indonesia, I have to give a chance. Yes, please.
Thank you, Ibu Rosalia. I'm Riri. I'm the commissioner from the National Commission on Maritime Women of Indonesia. I think the most challenging issue that we had, I don't know in other countries, but in Indonesia, I think the rising conservatism and radicalism is really affect the day-to-day women's life. For example, right now we are struggling to pass the law on the bill on anti-sexual bill. The elimination of sexual violence bill. That the groups that are very active in resisting this law is actually also coming from women themselves. So like women have been used by those conservative groups actually to attack like feminist movement in Indonesia, and like they campaign very loudly in social media, promoting polygamy, and also endorsing some discriminatory laws in some areas of Indonesia that gender harmony, they use like gender harmony should be the one instead of like feminist movement. So I don't know in other countries, but I think raising conservatism, religious conservatism and fundamentalism is not only in Indonesia, but it's also a global challenge, because like as my colleague said, who attend the Commission on the Status of Women, for example, in New York, the issue of like conservatism and also fundamentalism is also the movement of, for example, like policy movement is also very strong, that influence the decision of even in the UN building. So I think I just want to raise that. Even in Indonesia, we have a very strong movement on women's ulama, for example, and also progressive Islamists. But I think this fundamentalist group, even though they are small, but they are very active campaigning in social media and also influence and attract many, especially young Muslim women to to ally and also to resist, especially the progressive movement of Indonesia. So I just want to raise that.
Very important point. Okay, one more.
Perhaps a face to the statistic that you mentioned that in some countries women are not allowed to pass citizenship. To put a face to the statistics that was mentioned, in some countries women are not allowed to pass citizenship. I am a Nepali woman married to a foreign man, and I'm not allowed to pass citizenship to my children. That would be interesting to people to know that I still exist.
Yeah, and I think there are many more of this discrimination ingrained into all kinds of system, and I think it shows very well. I think this discussion, the 5 presentation shows very well, as indeed the agenda of peace and security need to be linked, cannot be otherwise. It needs to be linked to a discussion of human rights, of patriarchy, of the influence of patriarchy on all levels of society, and that peace should indeed be in the household as well as in society, not only focusing on conflict situation. It's not only an issue of terrorism. It is much more than that. And I think we have seen it very clearly as the economic situation, exploitative situation, as well as lack of protection in transportation, public services, etc., lead to vulnerability of women and prevent their voices to be spoken as well as to be listened. So hopefully, I think also for Canada will help to broaden the agenda and integrate into a broader discourse on human rights at the base. I think already Canada is to be congratulated for putting feminism very high on the agenda, and for ASEAN I think it's time to start to talk about feminism and not being afraid of being associated with the Western world. So an applause for all the speakers and speakers for taking a little bit more of your time, but you can continue. We have coffee and tea outside, and you can continue the discussion over a cup of coffee. And please, on your way out, please listen. On your way out, give a donation, because we are dependent on donation to continue to support Junction. Thank you very much. And